Good morning, students. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
There are others. Is some class going on? Only 12 students, 11 students I see. Okay, good morning, students. I think we should start because it's 10:20 already, right? So, last lecture was on diagnosis of plant viruses, and today also in the beginning we will do one or two more techniques which are used for diagnosis of plant viruses, and then we will move for the diagnosis of human viruses, right? So, to brief about yesterday's lecture in diagnosis of plant viruses, we discussed few techniques which are very commonly used for diagnosis of plant viruses. So, who will tell me what are two common methods for diagnosis of a plant viruses, right? Just a moment, just a moment. Yes, Manaswani.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
So, the two common methods are the serological methods and the molecular methods.
Yeah, fine. Okay, stop here. I'll ask someone else. So, yes, Ayushi, what are the serological methods that are used for diagnosis of plant viruses?
Ma'am, the different serological methods which are used for virus identification are ELISA,
Mm-hmm.
tissue blood immunoassay, and quartz crystal
Mm-hmm.
microbalance immunosensors.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. Yes. Okay, so who will tell me what are the molecular methods which are used for the identification of plant viruses? Today, I'm allowing all the students who are joining late, but from tomorrow onwards, after 10:20, I'll not allow, right? So today also I have enabled that tool here that only latecomers will not be allowed. They have to ask for a permission, right? So please make sure that you all join at least by 10:20, right? 5 minute time is really enough because your earlier class get over by 10, somewhere 10 to 10, 10, right? So 10-minute gap is a lot to join another class. Fine. Yes, Nehal.
Ma'am, RT-PCR,
Yes,
nested PCR,
RT-PCR.
multiplex
Yes.
PCR, and co-operational PCR.
Okay, fine, good. So, okay, who will tell me what is different between real-time PCR and normal RT-PCR that we do? Anyone? What is real-time PCR? Real-time PCR में we can see the virus. See, what is PCR? Basically, a small amount of a DNA is being converted. Large number of copies are being done, and then after a gel electrophoresis, we are able to see whether amplification is there or not. But in real-time PCR, we don't need to run a gel electrophoresis. In real time, we can see the concentration increasing on the screen. There are some CT values and there are other values, some calculating methods that we use, and we can see on screen live. So we don't need to do any electrophoresis to check our PCR product, whether it has been amplified or not, or right. So this is one major difference. And yesterday I also told you that if we talk about the economic or cost factor also, so real time, they are very costly, they are very expensive. So yes, for a human virus diagnosis, we definitely go for real time PCR, but for a plant viruses, only for research purposes, we use such methods. Otherwise, we prefer to go for ELISA or a PCR in the normal methods for the detection, right? So what were the other methods we discussed yesterday? Serological was there, in which we discussed the ELISA and they. Okay, what is cross reactivity? We discussed one term, serological assays. I'm sorry. Okay, seems like आपने घर जाके नहीं पढ़ा. What is tissue blot immunoassay? What is different between ELISA and tissue blot immunoassay? And I'm pretty sure कि जो मैं टेक्निक्स आपको पढ़ा रही हूँ, ये आपने पहले लास्ट ईयर्स में किसी ना किसी कोर्स में पढ़ी हैं. I'm pretty sure. ये कुछ नया चीज नहीं है जो मैं आप लोगों को पढ़ा रही हूँ. What is tissue blot immunoassay? Yes, Nehal.
The difference between them in ELISA, polyester plate is used, and whereas in tissue blotting immunoassay, the nitrocellulose or nylon
membranes are being used. Yes,
membranes
that's
are
right. That this is the major difference. And yesterday also I told you that whenever we want to go for the testing a large number of the samples, the tissue blot immunoassay or ELISA is being preferred as compared to the PCR or other method that we use. Okay, what is multiplex PCR? Who will tell me what is multiplex PCR? Stop it, Nehal. Enough of answering. I want other students also to answer. Like only few students are answer in the class. So yes, Shakti.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, in multiplex PCR, we can target two or more DNA for detecting at the same time.
Same time, yes. So multiplex PCR are being standardized when in one particular sample we are expecting more than 2-3 viruses. So we can standardize it in such a way that in one reaction we can identify more than 2 viruses, right? So that is the multiplex PCR. Okay, so today we'll discuss we discussed the microarray also yesterday. So microarray is evolved platform from the blotting basically. So what we do in a micro blot, what is the difference? Can anyone guess? Anyone, what could be the difference between the microarray and hybridization or a blotting when we talk about? Any wild guesses? No? Okay, fine. So what we do in hybridization, we we probe our samples first to the nitrocellulose membrane or any membrane. We put our samples first and then we add probe, right? What happens in a micro is just the opposite. So we just label our probes on some glass slides, which is or microchip, which is being prepared, and then we put our samples later to check whether which sample is present there. So this is the basic difference. The basic principle usually, which is of a microarray in hybridization, is similar, that how they detect the viruses. But then microarray is more complex because you need a proper equipment to put those probes on those chips and then use those later. So this is a little tricky process as compared to the hybridization, where we don't require any such thing. All we need is a sample, and we need a if it is a DNA blot, southern hybridization, we need a DNA. We run it in electrophoresis, and from the gel we transfer it to the membrane directly. So bit easy to do as compared to that. So microarray also we discussed yesterday, so I'll skip that. Okay, so this was one more method, rolling circle amplification, which is very commonly used these days for detection of circular DNA viruses, right? So basically, only those viruses which have a circular DNA, they can be amplified by this mechanism. And the best part in this is that we don't need a thermal cycler here. We just need an enzyme which is a pi DNA polymerase enzyme, and this enzyme can amplify any circular DNA. So when we are suspecting any circular, for example, Begmo viruses are circular DNA viruses they infect a lot of plants. So when we are suspecting any such viruses in the plant, so we can directly go for using this 5-DNA polymerase, we can directly go for amplification. So we don't need a thermal cycler, we just need a water bath and to be incubated at a 30 degrees Celsius to be specific for 19 hours in the water bath. So basically this reaction is we overnight put our sample with the enzyme in the water bath, and next after 19 hours next day we'll see, we will then we will use some restriction enzyme basically to cut that amplified product, and at the end we'll check it on the gel and we'll see if there's a desired product which is equivalent to the genome of any DNA viruses we are expecting. They are basically around 2.5 kb usually DNA A and DNA B. So if you're getting amplification somewhere near that, that means that virus is present. So this is very commonly used for identification of bagoviruses and nanoviruses in the plant, and comparatively easier method because we don't need any specified equipment, just a water bath is required, right? Then when we talk about hybridization or blotting, there are three types basically: Southern, Northern, and Western. So as when we use DNA in the blotting, it is called a Southern, and RNA Northern and Western for a protein basically. So the detailed methodology we'll discuss in the practical, because we have in practical also blotting procedure. But then how and what we do in a blotting, that I'll going to tell you, right? So Southern blot is basically a very important method in molecular biology, which is used for detection of specific DNA sequences in a DNA sample. So what happens here, it combines the transfer of first we run a gel, electrophoresis gel, our sample on the gel, right? So our samples or DNA is separated on the gel, right? Then we transfer those DNA from the gel to the membranes, right? And then we design certain probes for which are complementary to the sequences of those viruses which we are looking forward for, and we use those probe in the hybridization. So this method was named after the Edwin Southern, who first published it in the 1975. Northern and Western don't have to do anything. It was just that first was identified Southern, so they named Northern for RNA and Western for protein. And Eastern also, there's a Eastern hybridization also, which studies some protein interactions, right? So what is probe here? Probe is any fragment of DNA or RNA of a variable length. It could be 100 to 1000, 10,000 base pair long, which can we can label that by using a radioactive label probe label or a fluorescently labeled enzymatic label probe, right? So it can be then used in DNA or RNA samples to detect the presence of a nucleotide substance that are complementary to the sequence of the probe. So what happens, the probe hybridizes, or it binds to a single stranded nucleic acid, DNA or RNA, whose base sequence allows probe target base pairing due to complementarity between the probe and the target. So this is how it identify any sample which is positive or which is complementary to the sequence of the probe that we have. So these were the techniques which commonly we use in the diagnosis of a plant viruses. Then coming to the diagnosis of the human viruses, as I told you, real-time PCR or RT-PCR or ELISA, they are the similar kind of a mechanism that we use in the human viruses also. But then there's one particular technique which is called a cell culture. So cell culture is a process by which cells are grown under controlled conditions, generally outside their natural environment. So after the cells of interest have been isolated from the living tissue, they can be maintained under carefully controlled conditions, because we cannot, as we know, the viruses, they need a living host for multiply. So viruses cannot be multiplied on any kind of a media, right? We cannot grow them. So we need cell lines, basically a cell culture. So we use cell culture to grow the viruses. So So these conditions, they can vary for each type of a cell, but they usually consist of a proper vessel with a medium that supply the important nutrients. Like we have a tissue culture medium, so similar, there's a particular medium here also that we use. So viral culture is again a lab technique where the sample of viruses are placed toward different cell lines which the virus being tested is for able to infect. Like plant viruses में हम क्या करते हैं, हम host plants को देखते हैं, propagative host है या कोई host plant जिसपे plant grow कर सके, then we do a mechanical inoculation and we maintain the virus on that. This is the plant. For this is viral culture is basically for the animal or a human viruses that we do, right? So if cells shows change, maybe they are known as a cytopathic effect, then the culture is considered as a positive. So growth of viruses in the cell is usually detected by visualizing the morphological changes in the cell, which are known as a cytopathic effect. The characteristics of these are often sufficiently distinctive to allow the lab to be suspicious of which virus is responsible. So people who are continuously working in these types of a culture, they know that what kind of a cytopathic effect will be produced by which viruses. So that can be detected on their basis. So what is cell line? Basically, cell line is basically uh, a population of a cell from a multicellular organism, right? Which would normally not proliferate indefinitely. Normally वो indefinitely नहीं grow करेगी, but there are certain mutations which are being introduced and they have evaded the normal cellular senescence. And what happens? They keep on undergoing division. These cells, they keep on dividing. So the most important cell lines which are widely used for viral diagnosis are primary rhesus monkey kidney cells, primary rabbit kidney cells. So these are very commonly used in the viral cell culture techniques. Then nucleic acid detection, PCR or RT-PCR is the similar that we discussed yesterday, that we need to have the primers specific for the virus for these kind of detections. You isolate DNA or RNA depending upon the viruses which we are suspecting. And then we go for the PCR and the RT-PCR, right? Or there's a real-time PCR, which is very commonly used for the detection of the human viruses. So that are being commonly used. Then we have again serological techniques here also, like we have a plant viruses. So ELISA is again very common method which is being used in diagnosis of human viruses also. So this is being done. And besides that is another assay which is known as heme agglutination inhibition assay. So this test is very commonly performed in the labs also. So this test is being done in the practicals in the our institute also, when students they do the lab practicals. So Dr. Shweta or Dr. Devinder, they do this kind of a test. So immunology, maybe I'm sure you're studying the basic immunology course, so there you're going to study these kind of viruses, right? So some viruses such as dengue virus or measles virus or influenza virus, they have a heme agglutination antigen on their surfaces. So it binds and agglutinates RBCs. So thus it is termed as a heme agglutination, right? So what happened? The inhibition of the ability of the virus to agglutinate RBC is utilized for the development of this kind of a assay or test. So in this test, number of dilutions of serum samples are prepared in a microtiter plate, and then we add a specified amount of a viral hemagglutination. Glutenin is added. Then finally, the appropriate RBCs are added. The absence of HA indicates a positive reaction. So this is very small and very general or common test which is used for the presence of the virus in the lab. So immunological diagnostic methods are widely employed in a routine clinical diagnosis of viral infections worldwide. And they have a very advantages that they have a very high sensitivity and specificity also. So when we talk about the specificity and sensitivity, so what do you understand by the specificity and yeah, sensitivity? What does this mean? Have you heard these terms before, specificity and sensitivity? Yes, anyone? कभी सुना है कि ये
Yes,
टेस्ट बहुत
ma'am, we
स्पेसिफिक
have.
है? Yes, tell me then. जाना सुनिए.
Ma'am, so when you say a test is specific to a particular disease, it means that it'll work only and only for that disease, and it won't, detect something else. So it's
Yes.
specific to one particular disease.
Yeah. Okay. And when we talk about the sensitivity, then what does that mean?
Ma'am, I'm not sure.
Yes, anyone else? See, sensitivity is basically in this is we use in a diagnostic system when we use for ELISA or a PCR, we say ELISA is very sensitive, but it is not as specific as the PCR, right? We say specificity of the PCR is more as compared to the ELISA, whereas sensitivity of ELISA is more. So when we use this term, so sensitivity means the ability of a particular diagnostic test to properly and very correctly identify those with the disease. True positive rate, there should be a proper true positive rate is there, right? Whereas specificity is ability of the test to correctly identify those also, that is their negative rate is also proper, that जो उन्होंने without disease भी identify here, it is very accurate. So these are the terms which we very commonly use when we talk about the diagnostic. So when we say, we usually say that ELISA tests, they are very sensitive, but they are not very specific, where there are cross reactivity and there are lot many other problems. But when we talk about the PCR, we always say that they are very specific and their specificity is high, right? So immunological based assays, they do have a several limitations. So interferences in immunoassays may result from the presence of, as I told you, the cross-reactive agents in the sample that carry similar or the same epitopes as the viral antigen of interest. So that will lead to the false positive test also. What are epitopes? आप लोग immunology पढ़ रहे हो? What is epitope?
Ma'am, it's a specific protein on the
Manaswini,
flower.
no. Honestly, no, I don't want answer. Please, anyone else? आप सबने भी immunology पढ़ा होगा ना? Basic antibody का structure तो पढ़ा होगा ना? क्या होता है epitope? बताओ मुझे. Yes.
Now it's kind of part of antigen that binds to a specific receptor of a B cell.
Epitope is antigen that binds to the specific. Okay, fine. So what happens sometimes, there are certain cross-reactive agents which are present in the cell. They also have a similar kind of a epitope. So those will also bind to the antibodies, and that those will give rise to the false positive results also sometimes. So that is the problem. And another problem is there are certain endogenous antibodies like autoantibodies or heterophilic antibodies or human anti-animal antibodies might be present in the specimen. So despite the fact that viral antigen is not present in the sample, these exogenous antibodies, they may interact with antiviral antibodies or detection antibodies, and that will again lead to the false positive result. So just in small, what are heterophilic antibodies? So these are the antibodies which are being produced without exposure to specific immunogens, and they are considered to be naturally occurring in our body. So they generally have a very low avidity, but then they react across multiple species with the capability of binding to multiple antigens. So again, they can be a problem. Then human anti-animal antibodies, these are produced after acute or a chronic exposure to specific antigens, and they are species specific, and they have a very high avidity than the heterophilic antibodies. Then anti-animal antibodies, they can be produced sometimes in response to some therapeutic agents that has some animal-derived monoclonal antibodies, or from the exposure to animals occupationally, people who are directly dealing with these kind of animals or their pets, so they can have from there also, right? So autoantibodies, these are also, they can interfere with the immunoassays, and examples are anti-thyroglobulin antibodies that affect thyroglobulin immunoassays. Anti-insulin antibodies, again, they interfere with the immunoassays for insulins or a C-peptide. So high titers of potentially interfering antibodies may occur in patients if they had some recent infections of these kind of pathogens or immunizations. They are being immunized by certain vaccinations or certain kind of a blood transfusions or any other such therapy has been done. So that is one reason that this happens, right? So another important way of identifying viruses or new viruses or some new strains of the viruses is sequencing. So see, by PCR also what happened, it gives us indication that this virus is present, but we cannot be surely confirmed until and unless we go for a sequencing. So after sequencing only, we'll know the genome of that particular virus or maybe a particular protein, for example, code protein I have amplified. So only after sequencing, I'll be able to know its genome, that what are the different bases, is there any some kind of a mutations, is there this particular that I have amplified is a new strain, or it's similar to the older viruses which have been submitted in the database. So sequencing is the final thing. For example, in COVID-19, we are able to know the new strain of the viruses. So how do we know whether these are the new strain of the viruses? Because we are sequencing those samples, and then after sequencing, we are analyzing that genome. There are a lot of techniques. There's a, BLAST2 sequences or FASTA techniques that we mult align different sequences, and then we come to know where are the changes in the present sequence genome, what are the changes, what are the different mutations, or what are the points where there is a change from the previous virus which is available, right? So only after sequencing we come to know that whether this virus is a new virus or a new strain or altogether a new virus, right? So next generation sequencing technologies are becoming very good, and these are being employed in a virus research. So what happened in NGS, we can identify number of the sequences at one time. So this is earlier we used to go for a Sanger's sequencing method. So Sanger's sequencing methods, they only sequence of a single DNA fragment at one time, they can go for it, right? But in NGS, sequencing millions of fragments simultaneously per run can be done. So that is why the Sanger sequencing is being replaced by the NGS next generation sequencing technology. And the most commonly used method is developed by Illumina, where a number of platforms are being there which we can use for the sequencing our sample. So unlike Sanger's sequencing, NGS method can sequence the entire genome worth of DNA in one experiment. Whether earlier in Sanger's it is not possible. In Sanger's sequencing, maximum 1,000 base pair up to one run they'll do it, or 500 to 700 base pair, not more than that. So it can do this by running millions of a PCR at the same time. And this is again a technicality that how sequencing is being done. So I'm not going to discuss it here, but yes, this method is being very commonly used these days. So sequencing is being used in animal, plant, and human virus detection. In everywhere equally, this technique has been used. Then electron microscope is again one technique which is being used in again diagnosis of both plant and human viruses. So it has been used since its discovery very commonly. But then electron microscope is again one equipment which is very costly, and it is not very commonly found in all the labs. Only few labs they have an electron microscope. So okay, so basically the transmission electron microscope is a microscopy technique where a beam of electron is transmitted through a specimen to form a particular image, right? So very ultra thin sections are prepared on a particular grid. So again, expertise or expert people need who can prepare such thin sections, and they can analyze the samples on the electron microscope. So in Delhi, we have an Indian Agriculture Research Institute where there's a Advanced Center of Plant Virology, and they have 2 electron microscopes there. So sometimes, I mean, this 2 years is the COVID, but otherwise our master students, they always used to have a trip to that particular lab and to see that how the electron microscopy is working, how they prepare samples and how they visualize it under the microscope. So images formed from the interaction of the electrons with the sample as the beam is transmitted through the specimen, and image is then magnified and focused onto the imaging device such as a fluorescent screen. So we can see, right? We can see the particle, what kind of a particles, whether they are filamentous particle, whether they are flexuous filamentous particle, or they are Gemini, and shape from the shape, structure or shape of the viruses can be seen under this, right? So the method of choice for direct detection provide tissue preservation is not an issue. Tissue homogenize, basically there's a particular technique that you homogenize the tissue and then you do the negative staining. So negative staining, in what we do in a negative staining, we stain the background. We don't stain the sample which we need to visualize. We stain the background and we leave the actual specimen untouched and the physical. So this is in contrast to positive staining, which is where the actual specimen is being stained. So this is also a technical procedure where specific people are being employed and then trained and they do such kind of a work. It is not to be done by the students, or even we cannot do because we don't have expertise to do this. But yes, by this method we can, by just looking at the shape and size and maybe just the kind of a particles of the virus, we can come to a conclusion whether this virus belong to which particular group, right? We know the flexuous in particles, they could be the Potiviridae or Bromoviridae or filamentous particle to which group, or they are if isometric particle, they could be the ilar viruses or other viruses, or if they are Gemini or like twinned particles, it could be the Begmo viruses or Geminidae family. So on that basis, we can identify the viruses, right? So this is about the diagnosis of human viruses. So animal virus diagnosis is also similar. There are few things which are different. So that I'll take up in the next lecture because it is also mostly similar. But in animal viruses, there are a lot of visual identification of the specimen or a sample is being done. So how do they do the visual identification? Those methods I'll just try to discuss in the next lecture. So this is all about the diagnosis of the viruses, plant viruses, and the human viruses. And ELISA in detail, I'll take up in the practical. And then blotting also in detail, I'll take up in the practical because in practical also you have these two techniques. So types of ELISA and how we do ELISA, what are the methodology to do ELISA. So that will take up in the practical section again. So this is all from my side for today's lecture. If there's anything you need to ask, please you can ask your questions. And one more thing about the assignments and assessment questions that I'm giving you. Yesterday also I saw many people, they did not turned up and they did not submitted it. I'm telling you this again and again because this carries certain marks, right? So make sure that you submit them on time. And if you're not submitting them on time, or rather not submitting, so that means somewhere your marks are deducted for that, right? So make sure. Yesterday I saw many students, I saw it today morning though, and many students, they have not submitted their assignment questions, right? Ishita, are you not? Why Ishita? She left the meeting or she was not in the meeting earlier also? I tried to take in but उसका नहीं हो पा रहा है. Yes, Ishita, what happened? You joined late?
No, ma'am.
You were not in the meeting right now. मैंने देखा अभी आप बाहर थे.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. मैंने देखा है.
Ma'am, I got disconnected in between. I was there in the class from the starting only.
Okay, fine.
Sorry, ma'am.
Oh, that's fine. If there's some issue, no problem. Okay, there's one small question on today's lecture. Please attempt that. And Thursday, please be ready for the assessment also. And please make sure that your cameras are working and your mic is working, because if किसी का camera work नहीं कर रहा होगा, I'll not allow that person to give the exam. So make sure you come with all, attend the class or with your cameras and your mics, everything working perfectly okay.
Ma'am, what's the portion for Thursday?
Thursday is till today, whatever I discussed.
Okay, fine.
That includes your practical also. Okay, in the meanwhile, we can take the attendance also. Please switch on your cameras for attendance. Adhish Mishra,
Present, ma'am.
Athoiba,
Present, ma'am.
Ayushi,
Present, ma'am.
Sam,
Present, ma'am.
Ishita,
Present, ma'am.
Janvi,
Present, ma'am.
Kshitij, Manaswani,
Present, ma'am.
Namrata,
Present, ma'am.
Nandini, Nehal,
Present, ma'am.
Rupal,
Present, ma'am.
Sahiba,
Present, ma'am.
Sanjana, Shakti,
Present, ma'am.
Tanvi, Tridif,
Present, ma'am.
Vivek,
Present, ma'am.
Yukta, Yuvraj.
Present, ma'am.
Yes, Yukta, I can't see you. I can't hear you also. Fine. So please submit your this assignment question today itself and prepare for your exam. All of you can leave. Athoiba, you stay back. I want to talk to you. Rest others can leave the meeting. Thank you. Yes, Nandini.
This is Nandini. I am present. I'm
Yes.
facing problem with Teams.
Okay, please, if you are facing some problem with Teams, mail Dr. Sunny, he's your peer, that there are some issues and get them resolved, right? Because I told you Thursday we are having exam and then I don't want to listen these things that your Teams is not working or your camera is not working or your mic is not working. Get them solved by Thursday, right? All of you can leave the meeting. Athoiba, you stay back.
Ma'am, was I audible
Yes.
during the attendance?
Yeah, Tridev, you're audible. Yes.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am,
Shivani.
Shivani, actually my
Yes.
call got dropped. I didn't say present.
Okay, fine.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, Athoiba. What happened? Why are you missing so many classes these days?
Ma'am, I have some family issues as well.
What issue?
Family problem.
Family problem. Okay, fine, Athoiba. But make sure your attendance, you know, the 75% is minimum for your, I mean, in order to, so that you don't get debarred in your
Yes, ma'am.
course, right? Otherwise,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
will not be able to give you exam. And what about your supplementary? Are you able to clear all the supplementary exams?
Yes, ma'am. All are being clear.
Okay, what is your CGPA now?
Ma'am, for total or for each semester?
Total.
Ma'am, I need to check it and I'll let you know.
Please check it. See, you know, the Athoiba 5.5 is the minimum CGPA for the degree. So if you have a CGPA less than 5.5, you will not get your degree, right? That's why I'm reminding you that you need to work on your CGPA. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, Athoiba, fine. And make sure that you attend classes regularly, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Okay, you can leave the meeting.
Ma'am, thank you, ma'am.